Yeah, good evening, friends. Welcome to the Tuesday evening critical care and emergency updates. Along with today, we have an interesting link with pediatrics. So we have two eminent speakers and seasoned consultants who are with us to take us through. I invite Dr. Chetan R. Mundada, who is a senior consultant and lead consultant in pediatrics and pediatric intensive care unit of Yashoda Hospitals, Secunderabad. He has gone through many pediatric post-graduation and followed by many fellowships in both intensive care unit, not only just India, across some other parts of the world, particularly in Brisbane and other sites. And we have another seasoned dynamic intensivist, Dr. Suresh Kumar Panuganti, who is a part of lead consultant in the pediatric department and pediatric critical care from Somajiguda Yashoda Hospitals. And he has also been not just postgraduate from pediatrics, but also gone through many fellowships and spent time across the other parts of the world and has carried a lot of experience with that. So we will start with the initial part of review of literature and probably brush through this topic. The topic today, what we were discussing is, we have been discussing about adults, COVID and COVID related different concerns. So in the last few months, after the second wave, we are going through a vaccination phenomenon or vaccination phase across the globe, and that too in India. And more so, we were concerned about elderly, and then we came to a middle age, then we came to the above 18 years. But what about the age group below 18? And many of us know we are going through probably 20 to 30% of our population in total who got vaccinated with two doses, probably 70-60% with a single dose. So another 30% or 25% to 30% of pediatric population who is left behind right now. Those who may be going to the schools, there may be many exposures to them in many ways. So we were all skeptical and speculating many things around them. Initially, we felt that the pediatric population was immune to the disease. Later on, we saw that there may be mild to moderate symptoms. Later on, we realized that they can be a source of infection to the adults and elderly. So we had many links with these little ones which who are there with us, and there are a lot of emotions and there is a lot of care, love attached to them. So we all feel that many of us got vaccinated. What about our kids? What about our little ones? To take us through that, I'll request first Dr. Suresh Kumar Panuganti to brief us through, rub us through the initial part of the discussion, so that we will lay a platform for the interactive session. And I request all the audience to put their questions in the chat box, so that our both panelists are very enthusiastic and eager to have interactions with you. With that, I will over to Dr. Suresh Panuganti. Over to you.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for introducing Dr. Venkat. Without wasting much time, I'd like to just take you to the story of COVID and the COVID vaccination as it has emerged over last 18 months. This last 18 months has been a seesaw period for everybody. We have come a long way, and there is still a long way to cross the bridge. Let's not relax until we cross the bridge. And with this, I will just take you to the presentation. I would like to request everybody to mute their mics, and if any questions are there, please post on the chat box. So let's go through briefly regarding the COVID vaccination in little ones. I would like to make it a little more interactive and a story-based rather than a didactic lecture. So we are going to have our presentation in the following order. Let us go through the introduction of little ones, and then what is it, the global perspective of pediatric age group, and what are the fact sheets, and let's dispel the myths and then come to the facts. And then we will also see the time frames of COVID vaccines over last few months, and what are the regulations that are right now present in the country and across the globe. and what precautions we need to take in pediatrics. Like Dr. Venkat has already mentioned, emotions run really high when it comes to pediatrics. So we need to be very, very careful when it comes to safety profile of the vaccination, not just the COVID, because we have other our regular routine immunization program. And is there any impact on that regular vaccination program, and any kid specifics, and what do we expect in near future? Let's go through this. So globally, 32% of population is less than 18 years. That is quite significant. 1 in every 3 is less than 18 years. So as such, we have 65% coverage with the single dose of vaccine in our country. And it's only close to 40% who have been vaccinated with 2 doses. What about the 32% population who have not been immunized even with a single dose? Though a very little chance of COVID being a predominant killer or a cause of morbidity or mortality in children, it does account for almost 5% of hospitalizations. When I say numbers, I would always mention to my kids who come to my OP that these are just numbers for statistician, but for every parent, their child is 100%. So let us remember, every child is 100% for their own parents. So this 5% hospitalizations does not mean to anything to that parent. And fortunately, what we have seen over last 19 months is COVID has been slightly better off with the kids, and it has caused a very small percentage of mortality, that is less than 1% mortality. And traditionally, these kids are in vaccination age. What I mean by this is most adult physicians themselves are hesitant to vaccinate their patients, whereas we are very comfortable in vaccinating our kids. And kids are very comfortable in getting vaccinated. So we are the traditional vaccination age people, and they do tolerate much better as compared to adults. The kind of reactions which we have come across over last few months after the adult vaccination drive has started, we have been seeing for nearly 2 decades in our practice, and some of them must be seeing nearly 4 or 5 decades of our practice. We hardly come across serious adverse events following vaccination. And let us go through some of the fact sheets about the COVID and COVID vaccination. And let me be on record. All the ingredients in COVID-19 vaccines are pretty safe. We have a lot of ingredients, not just the virus particles, but we have something called adjuvants, which will enhance the potency of the component, as well as we have something called preservative, which lets the vaccine be safe in the shelf life for a longer period of time. And every test that needs to be done before the vaccine comes into the market will confirm that all these components are safe for kids and adults as well. And all the ingredients let the vaccine be blended together, stable, and even at the injection site, they remain a little longer together so that the vaccine works. And getting vaccinated against COVID-19 definitely helps you protect from getting sick. It doesn't mean that getting vaccinated means everything is done and we are free to go onto the road. It just helps in reducing the severity. That itself is a biggest boon we have. And we have seen the vaccination has reduced mortality as well as severe morbidity even in adults and as young as 19 or 20 years after following the vaccination. It does definitely cause mild side effects in adults, but the incidence or prevalence of side effects in pediatrics is going to be much less as compared to what we have seen in adults. And these are much simpler form of flu kind of symptoms. That is, they can have local pain or reaction, that is redness, and mild body pains or low-grade fever, which most of our parents would have already seen the kids getting following their routine immunization. Vaccination definitely helps in developing immunity from COVID-19. There is something called natural immunity, that is, antibodies do develop following a natural infection, but vaccination develops immunity more effectively than being infected and then getting sick. And the kind of immunity and the duration of immunity following vaccination is much longer as compared to that from natural immunity when it comes to COVID. They are highly effective against severe illness and mortality caused by COVID-19 variants, including Delta variant. Because of the media, we are seeing that the various variants are coming, the first one being alpha, then the beta, and then now we are seeing delta variant, which is considered as deadly. But the current vaccines which we are going to talk about are very, very effective even against the delta variant. So getting vaccinated with COVID-19 can definitely save your life and protect from severe disease. One thing we would like to highlight is, even after getting vaccinated, do not forget the basic SMS, that is social distance, mask, and sanitization. So these basic precautions need to be followed to protect yourself, family, and friends. When I say yourself and family, I would like to emphasize that if we as adults get ourselves vaccinated and follow the basic precautions, there is very little chance of our kids at home getting vaccinated. They shouldn't be suffering because of our lack of precautions. And everyone should continue to distance, wear a mask, clean hands frequently, and cover with the elbow while you are coughing instead of coughing into the palms. That's called Dracula cough. And even while you're sneezing, cover your nose and mouth with the elbow, and avoid the poorly ventilated areas. Whenever possible, open the windows and then let the sunlight enter the area. And then getting ill with COVID-19 after you're vaccinated is still a possibility, but the chances of being sick or severely ill is very, very less. The symptoms are likely to be mild. As we have seen over a period of time, most of our colleagues have been vaccinated. In fact, I'm proud to say that my department 100% population is vaccinated, and some of them do have breakthrough infections, but what we have seen is the symptoms are pretty mild. None of them required hospitalization because of 2 doses of vaccination. And remember, no vaccine protects 100% population. As pediatricians, we do inform our parents who come to us that vaccines do protect, but the amount of protection is 80 to 100%. So none of them are definitively 100%. So get vaccinated when your turn comes, definitely. And the COVID vaccines contain safe ingredients. Like I mentioned, it's impossible to place a microchip inside your body when getting vaccinated. So this is one of the myths which was being circulated, but it is definitely a myth. All the vaccine components which are there have been shown to be very, very safe for people. And take all recommended doses for your COVID-19 vaccine to get a better or a maximum level of protection. So let's just not stop being vaccinated with a single dose or part 1 dose and the other vaccination with the second company. So recommended doses as per the company needs to be completed to get maximum level of protection. And some of the typical side effects of COVID vaccine which are expected even in children are low-grade fever, pain or swelling at the injection site, and bit of myalgia. In case if anybody notices any of these things, which are usual in first 24 hours, please do come across and then meet your healthcare provider. And all you need is basic supportive medications. So some of the famous myths I put across in this. So one of the myths is COVID-19 vaccination alters the DNA of population. No, it does not, because the mRNA vaccine or DNA vaccines, it only causes some amount of immunity to be produced. It does not enter a cell's nucleus and definitely cannot change our own native DNA. And second myth, which we are going to talk about more in detail in the subsequent part of the presentation, is it might not be safe because it's a quick rollout. Yes, definitely vaccines do require a decade of preparation to come across, but in desperate times like this, they do take every possible precaution, especially when it comes to safety profile before the vaccine is rolled out. Thorough safety standards and trials need to be met before any vaccine is authorized for use in adults, more so in children. And the third common myth is food allergy, immunocompromised, breastfeeding or pregnant people cannot get the vaccine. No, it's a myth, which we have seen 6 months ago. Now we are vaccinating all the pregnant women with the vaccine. And then even breastfeeding or lactating mothers are being vaccinated. The only contraindication is if somebody is allergic to a specific component of the vaccine, be it a preservative or an adjuvant, only then you need to avoid vaccine. And other common myth we have heard n number of times in our OPD is, I will get COVID following vaccination. No, vaccine does not cause COVID. But if we don't follow the basic precautions following vaccination, that might get us into trouble. And I have had the COVID already, so I don't need vaccine. This is another myth. No, the natural immunity, which is caused by a natural infection, lasts only for about a few months, that is 12 to 16 weeks. So subsequently, the immunity wanes, and then we might get the COVID again, which we have seen people getting second time COVID for a simple reason that they have been not vaccinated. And the last one is, I don't need to wear a mask or take precautions because I have been vaccinated. No, please do wear mask in indoor places wherever COVID-19 spread is possible, and do not forget SMS. And remember, no one is safe until everyone is safe. So take your turn. When it comes, please do get vaccinated. So once we are safe, everyone is safe. So when everyone is safe, all of us are safe. With this, I would stop my presentation and give the mic back to Dr. Venkat to take us through interactive session.
Thank you, Dr. Suresh, for that initiation and that platform to roll around the discussion. Actually, many of us, including the parents, all three of us, many parents are just waiting for these informations which we were sharing or we were interacting. See, we were talking about a vaccine almost more than a year ago, and finally that landed up in India for adults and initially for the healthcare professional in the month of Jan. So what is the time frame, Dr. Chetan? You are thinking that right now we have some information that we may have a vaccine available in a quick time. Zydus has announced, Covaxin from Bharat Biotech has announced, but what is the time frame we are looking at that a vaccine will be available for the pediatric population in India? You know, what will be the time frame?
Yeah, so the tentative time frame is soon. I think the nation wants to know, if you can see the questions, everybody's first question is that. So if you look at the approval and rolling out, we are a huge populous country. So the logistics need to be worked out. So if you see Zydus vaccine, the Zycovax, which has been since beginning, which has been tested on people more than 12 years, 2 adults. So that got approved. DGCI also approved it in the month of August, and it is yet to be rolled out, most probably by the end of this month or in the first week of November. We'll see the rollout, but the government is still not come out exactly the timing. And with regards to Covaxin, the expert committee has recommended to the Drug Controller General of India regarding that Covaxin can be given an EUA, the emergency use approval, for use in children, depending on the basis of the trial data which was submitted. But the DCGI is yet to take the decision. But it is being said that soon it will be rolled out, and we should expect the rollout will not be to all the children at once because of one logistic issue. So it will be again similarly what we saw in adults, that the more vulnerable or children with comorbidities, they will be first, most likely will be given the preference, and then it will be gradually rolled out to others. Covaxin is from 2 year to 17 year. It can be it will be given. The Zydus vaccine, the Zycovax, it will be only given from 12 years and above.
So the just information what I actually got from the press release, not exactly we have any publications yet. The 500 plus kids which were given a trial vaccine, in that they also grouped like 2 to 6, 6 to 12, 12
Yes.
to 18. So there is a 3 groups which received this vaccine. So probably we are not sure, but they may initially release in a phase-wise manner, as you said, age group plus comorbidities in that fashion to come up in next year. So right now you spoke about 2 options in India. One you said a Zydus, if I'm not wrong, it is from a DNA-based vaccine.
Yes.
So, and that is only up from 12 to 18. That's the
Yes.
maybe,
For children, yes.
Yeah. So
12 to 18 and above.
so they are little senior littles, and then the other one, which is from 2 to 18, below 2, no vaccine yet has any approval. But
No.
for one, we had a DCGI approval. The other one, we are waiting for a DCGI approval. One may get, the Zydus may get released in the first week of November. The other one may follow that. That's what we are looking at. What are the other options across the globe? We were also looking at global perspective. So the pediatric population getting vaccinated being a new phenomenon, and few other countries and few other mRNA vaccines also been
Yes.
chasing it. So what was your perspective from that angle? Globally, where do we stand for pediatric vaccination?
Yeah, so globally, vaccines have been rolled out for pediatric population, but again, in USA, the Pfizer mRNA vaccine, Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, has been given from 12 years and above. They were giving the initial rollout was for 16 and above, so 12 to 15 also they covered, and almost 70% of the children of that age has received at least one dose of the vaccine. So that is for USA. In Israel also, almost similar figures are there. And in Middle Eastern countries and in China, the China made Sinopharm and Sinovac. These are the two vaccines, which I don't think we will be hearing anything about it afterwards as far as India population is concerned. So the Chinese vaccines have been given in China as well as in the Middle East, and I think in Singapore as well. So these are the vaccines which are available. Moderna has applied for it. Even Pfizer has gotten in principle approval from CDC USA to give the vaccines from 5 to 11-year age group as well. And they have applied for to the Canadian FDA as well. The logistics are being worked out, and in a week, maybe it will be available for children 5 to 11 years across the US mostly, and followed by that in Canada. All other European countries, they are yet thinking about it, and the other vaccine candidates have not been approved so far. Moderna will get approval. When it gets approval, it will get it from 2 years to 17 years. So Moderna's mRNA vaccine will be there from 2 years and above. Less than 2 years, we don't have any vaccine candidate as yet. So that population will still be unvaccinated for quite some time.
So if I can add a couple of points.
Go ahead,
Pfizer BioNTech is the first vaccination to be approved for children, that is 12 to 18 years, FDA approved. The dosage and interval between dosage, everything is similar. And then Zydus COVID vaccine is the first vaccine for children, which is actually a DNA vaccine. And the reason why I said I want to add is there were a lot of questions in OPD from my regular parents who come to me saying that's a DNA vaccine, will it alter our native DNA? So it definitely does not alter the native DNA, and whether we give a DNA vaccine or a mRNA based vaccine, it's not going to alter the native DNA. So we are going to have few more vaccines. DNA vaccine, basically it is the DNA particle of the virus is taken and then used to make a vaccine that would be effective for the virus per se.
So the other part is the Zydus vaccine was not even available, was used in even adults till point of time. So it's only in the trial basis where safety has been proved, and now it has been rolled out for pediatrics.
So,
as well as adults also it will be rolled out. So like it's not restricted to pediatrics only.
So is that current approval is for both pediatrics and adult, or it is
for both pediatrics and adults? It is for that, and it is a 3-dose vaccine. And it's a different, it is a needle-free vaccine. So it's the world's first DNA based vaccine, and it's a needle-free vaccine where the vaccine will be given by a different kind of injector by a jet intradermally. It's only will be given in the upper layer of the skin, and there won't be a needle in it. And 2 doses will be needed at a time, 0.1 ml on each arm, and then that will be given 28 weeks apart for 3 doses.
Okay.
So
Instead
in
of
2
three,
months,
there will be
yeah,
another
instead of
added.
2, it will be 3 doses, and that too 2 doses each. So total 6 doses will be given in the Zydus vaccine. But it may happen that because 12 to 18 years will be covered, so it will be only restricted to children, but the approval is for the whole across the age group, like from 12 years above.
Yeah. So
again, this is a DNA vaccine, and we pediatricians are pretty comfortable with DNA vaccines. We already have a vaccine for influenza vaccine, which itself is a DNA vaccine. One of the companies produced DNA vaccine, and that is given from very young age, as early as 6 months. So I would like to appeal to public that it is very safe. It's going to be safe, and it does not alter DNA.
Yeah. So coming back to you, Dr. Suresh, see, we started this vaccine program, I believe, in the last year around November, December, where United States and both UK and all started rolling out the vaccines initially with Covishield, then mRNA and all. Is that the reason that the pediatric population were not badly affected or were sicker, or was that the population which was not undergone trials? What was the reason we took such a long time, maybe more than a year? Is it the population? Generally, when we talk about influenza, when we spoke about other vaccines, the pediatric population were in the forefront. The extreme age groups were in the forefront for vaccination. Why do we actually took such a long time for pediatrics population to come into the vaccination?
Interesting, because it's not very easy to conduct trials in pediatric age group. There are a lot of ethical considerations, emotional bondings which are involved when we have to conduct a trial in pediatric age group. That's one of the reasons. Though historically children tolerate vaccination much better, and they have been exposed to multiple vaccines before 18 months of age, yet to convince a parent that this vaccine is going to be safe and I'm going to study this vaccine in your child, it takes lots of time, sir. So ethical considerations, emotional bonding, these are the more important reasons rather than children being less affected. That's the reason why they are not getting vaccinated. Also, to begin with, you have initially highlighted that initially first wave what we have seen was those who were elderly and with comorbid conditions were the ones who were severely affected. The moment we started seeing surge in COVID cases in elder people, we started taking protection for our kids at home, and they were less mobile. So that's the reason why they were not infected as much as adults. But the reason being the delay, the reason for the delay is difficult to conduct trials in children for ethical considerations involved, sir.
Yeah, the second part of the whole is, if you see, we saw a lot of morbidities, mortalities, and sicker group in elderly in the first wave. Followed by, when it came to the second wave, we have seen a lot of in the middle age group, even though we felt ki probably now the younger age group got more affected. But it felt like the more larger percentage of population got affected in the second wave form, whereas in the first wave, probably only the elderly group or those are only from the small group, these elderly came into the sicker state. Now, in the third wave, there were a lot of assumptions, speculations, a lot of things that now, because the adults more than 18 years were got sicker group and got severe diseases, moderate diseases, they were more symptomatic. All we understand is the antibodies, immunity gets much better when you have a severe disease or a sicker disease. Is that the reason we believe that pediatric has not been exposed to this? And now that we also see some percentage, if not fully, around 30-40% of population got vaccinated, and maybe another 40-50% got some natural immunity by getting infected. Now this only left behind population is the pediatric. Do you think this made a lot of speculation that the next wave, in the third wave, may be a hit to this lower group of age group population, which in contradictory, we have not seen the similar pattern in UK. UK has already gone through the third wave. Israel has already gone through the third wave. Many other, even USA. But we saw some of these little ones get affected, but not many got hospitalized. Hospital beds were not that badly occupied. Some of the missed syndromes which were earlier seen are the same pattern, but not many. Do you think that kind of speculation, assumption has any validity at this point of time? Dr. Suresh?
So as you mentioned, it was just an assumption because initially elderly were affected, then middle-aged were affected. And as the mobility of kids started increasing over a period of time, after 12 months of house arrest or lockdown, kids started getting restless and they started becoming mobile. So everyone assumed that there is going to be a third wave. And fortunately, we have not seen that kind of a bad impact. And moreover, what has happened was more and more adults were getting vaccinated during this time, and the kind of infection which they went through was milder, which was less infective to others. That's the R factor was getting better and better. So the infectivity rate was getting better. So the transmission to other population was less. So thereby kids getting affected was much less as compared to adults in the first or second wave. And the second reason is kids have something called ACE or angiotensin converting enzyme, which has offered some sort of immunity for children from being exposed to severe infection. And the third one being children do tolerate infections better. What we have seen, there was significant number in terms of numbers, we have seen significantly increased population in the second wave, but the severity was much less. What was worrying me as pediatricians was post-COVID syndrome or multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children following COVID. So I keep urging the parents, though the severity is less, do not take it lightly, because we are seeing a lot of complications between 3 to 6 months following the COVID infection in children. So like you pointed, Israel and UK have gone through third wave, and the population which was affected was similar to second wave, that is middle-aged and elderly. Let's hope that that will be the situation even in India. And the other thing is both the governments were prepared, both the government as well as private sector were totally prepared for this third wave. So this was some sort of blessing in disguise. Let's hope we do not require to use the resources, because nobody wants their sick child to be sick.
Many pediatric setups were geared up. Many pediatric hospitals, intensive care were actually optimizing their infrastructure. So there were a lot of assumptions, ifs and buts, seeing at that bad effect of the second wave.
In fact, I would just like to add, I was part of the team which actually created a mobile ICU for Telangana and AP governments, because as such, pediatric ICUs are not as large as adult ICUs. And the awareness that about pediatric ICU is much less even in the general population. So we have created a model where mobile ICUs were designed and created, and they were ready to be rolled out within 24 hours of need, which can be expanded from 50 to 500 beds at any point of time within 24 hours. But hopefully we don't have to use that.
Yes, yeah, that's a good info. We hope that that will not come into use in that volume. Dr. Chetan, there were, even though there are a lot of awareness related programs and many counselings, many parents, many adults, many elders still have a concerns related to the maybe rare or a minimal vaccine related complexities or complications, which we repeatedly heard that this may be a phenomenon with every vaccine we take. And some of them have also concerns related to this escape of vaccine, which we also see some of them. But the point many raise is, if one side you argue that pediatric population generally tolerate well, and they have either asymptomatic carriers, or sometimes they may have mild disease, very rarely they land up into some form of severe pneumonias and landing up to intensive care, or we see deaths. If that is the context, why do we actually believe that these age group also needs vaccination when we are concerned about the complexities or complications related to that? Again, as Dr. Suresh pointed out, the syndrome, multi-system inflammatory syndrome being also a concern. Do you think that as a challenge? Do you think transmission as a challenge? What is actually your task? Do you actually talk about this dropping the severity, which we are talking in adults? Do you think dropping in hospitalization, dropping in transmission, or dropping in mixed syndrome?
See, dropping in severity and hospitalization, as Suresh pointed out, the hospitalization percentage is very less in children, that we have seen in both the waves. So it is not more about the blunting the severity, but yes, as earlier has been discussed, for every parent, their child is 100%. The statistics are only for the statistician. They are only to develop a public health program. But we do see children having severe disease. We do see children having very severe post-COVID complications, and that the child needs ICU care, the child needs sometimes ventilation, sometimes many invasive procedures and inotrope support. So that is one thing. The second is, yes, the transmission. Children can be a very good vector for transmission. And if we keep a large swath of population unimmunized, so that can lead to various mutations getting further propagated. Right now, what we saw in Delta variant, it was very infective, it was very lethal. So we can have mutations if a large population remains unimmunized, remains unexposed, and they become the reservoir of the infection, and then it keeps on getting transmitted. So mutation also is one thing, and that's why no one is safe till everyone is safe. That is the motto which WHO has come up with. So we have to ensure that we make sure that the people are immunized and large number of people are immunized to create that herd immunity effect. So it's a part of everything. If you look at it, even though the symptoms, the severity has been less, but in certain children, especially those with comorbidities or even young adolescents, they also have landed up. We didn't see in our city that much severe pneumonias in children but in the second wave, but in Ahmedabad, in Mumbai, in Delhi, our colleagues have reported that they had seen very severe COVID infections also, even though the number was less. But for that family, that particular family, it is definitely a cause of concern. And mutations are such, you don't know it beforehand, how a particular mutation is going to behave. So it is always good to be prepared. And I think what we discussed, that India geared up really well for third wave, and especially with regards to the pediatric infrastructure. Even the government medical colleges and government hospitals, they have got a very good pediatric intensive care upgradation because of this, which will be a blessing, which will be very useful for large number of pediatric patients for other diseases also in future. So it is always best to be prepared with for this. And I think that's why we need to ensure that whenever our turn comes, for our kids' turns come, we need to get them vaccinated when the approval and the logistics are in place.
So we say we may not need them, but we should be prepared well for the worst situation if arises.
Yeah, I mean, we may not, because we still don't know who are the vulnerable population who will get this rare complication of MISC, the multi-system.
So the variant of concern, the MISC, and probably the transmission. These are the
transmission to the elderly in the family, to other vulnerable people.
And we look at the herd immunity by vaccine immunity to achieve. So we need a large population, and 30% of the population makes a big number. And they are probably a chubby child who actually jump from one to others. So they may be a source. So the second part of many of us, we want that, as you said, Zydus, the same vaccine has been approved for kids and adults. Do you think the Covaxin, which was approved almost 9 months back to all of us, is the same vaccine approved for the children? And is it the same dose, same duration gap and all that?
Yes, the vaccine approved, the vaccine, the ingredient is the same. What is going to be different is the presentation. So right now, if you see, it's a multi-dose vial where 10 doses are supplied in the one bottle, and then the nurses will draw 0.5 ml and will inject. Here, the company as well as the government wants a particular amount without fail to be injected to the kids. So it will be a pre-filled syringe of 0.5 ml each. So it will be an individual vaccine. It will not be a multi-dose vial. Apart from that, all other things will be same. This time, what they have done, they are like in Covaxin, they had seen that certain after 4 weeks, initially it was recommendation was after 4 weeks you have to take the second dose, and then they increase it to up to 6 weeks also. So this they have only changed, did 4 weeks as the interval between two doses, but it will be 4 to 6 weeks. It won't be any change. We'll get to know when we see the rollout, but the all other things are the same of the vaccine. Only thing is the presentation, it will be a pre-filled syringe individually for each patient, for each child.
Yeah, Dr. Suresh, actually, we were discussing about the DIDIS being approved both from expert panel and followed by DCGI, and we are waiting for a rollout. Now we are speaking about the emergency approval or emergency authorization approval given to this Covaxin. What exactly is this emergency approval? And we are waiting for a DCGI to still approve this from after the expert panel given their opinion. So
So
what is
basically,
exactly?
this emergency use authorization is a regulatory mechanism which is used for any drug or any vaccine to reduce the impact as well as to reduce the mortality from a disease, especially like COVID. This is something new for everybody. So when we have something new in terms of desperate measures, we need to have some regulatory mechanism. Just because we are in desperate measures, we cannot just roll out a vaccine just like that. So that has to still undergo significant amount of stages of safety measures, quality checks, and then they will have to go through the series of adverse event profiles. Only after all the qualities are met, that is rolled out. But it is still not a WHO approved vaccine. It is still considered as EUA, that is emergency use authorization. What we have seen in adults, most of us who got vaccinated with Covaxin, that was also under EUA. But we have seen after 6 months of this EUA that it is a pretty safe vaccine. Nobody had major serious adverse events. So it is, just to put in a nutshell, it is a regulatory mechanism which ensures that they go through quality checks, safety profiles, only then it is authorized for rollout.
Yeah, so there were other concerns. Are you seeing any other vaccines coming into the Indian pipeline, mRNA or Covishield? Only Covaxin has come into being. Why Covaxin? Why not Covishield? Why not mRNAs?
So if we see, there are two more vaccines which not many people will be talking about, but we are going to see the light of it in next few weeks. In fact, they have already applied for permissions to do stage 3 trials. I'm talking about phase 3 trials. One is by Serum Institute of India, that is Covovax, and the other one is Corbevax, that is biological A components. Biological Hyderabad-based company, in fact. They have also applied for permissions to conduct stage 3 vials. It is going to be a subunit vaccine. Once it comes out, it is going to be slightly game changer because a subunit vaccination has got its own advantages over other vaccines. But we cannot wait for that, and we need to get vaccinated when our mRNA or DNA vaccines, that is Zydus vaccine or Covaxin by Bharat Biotech, when it is rolled out.
Any schedule change? Suppose now the pediatric population will have their own regular vaccine schedules, which generally they will be following. Do you think taking this Covaxin or Zydus vaccine at this point of time will change the regular schedule, or what will be the recommendations?
No, actually that should not cause any impact on regular vaccination. There are enough studies which are already conducted in abroad that the other vaccinations, that is age appropriate vaccinations, can be taken on the same day as COVID vaccination. So there definitely need not be any impact on other vaccination. In fact, it was a blessing in disguise after this COVID vaccination has come for adults. More and more people started getting their vaccination chart of their kid updated. They just overnight realized that, oh, their kids also are not vaccinated against certain diseases, and they started getting vaccinated against flu or MMR or any of the pending vaccines.
So, Dr. Chetan, there were some concerns with pediatric population. What kind of adverse effects we saw in adults? It was more of fever, chills, body ache as a common phenomenon, or some headaches, some body cramps, some diarrheal issues. very few of thrombotic phenomenons and serious adverse effects like myelitis and all. But what are the kind of things, as sorry, Suresh has already pointed out that pediatric population are well tolerated population compared to adults in any form of vaccines. What is your expectation? Is the adverse effect will be further milder, or do you expect some more adverse effects can arise in pediatric population?
As far as Covaxin is concerned, yes, there will be there. We should expect that there will be some low-grade fever or myalgia or the injection site pain. That so far we have not heard of or read about any serious adverse event like the one which we saw in adults of some thrombotic events. So that has not been yet reported so far with Covaxin as well as in Zydus. And as I told you, in the Zydus vaccine, it is a needle-free vaccine. So what the company is claiming that even that injection site pain and that soreness afterwards, that is also very, very less. But for any vaccine, it is very, very common to have low-grade fever. You can have that with any vaccination. The parents are aware that their kids, sometimes they will have a particular side effect like fever or some soreness. With one vaccine, it won't be there with other vaccine. So apart from that, any serious adverse events, no, we have not seen. What we have heard of with mRNA vaccines in Pfizer, in USA and other developed countries where it has been rolled out for kids for more than 12 years, is young male adolescents. They did suffer from a particular side effect known as myocarditis. It's inflammation of heart, which is again, very few of them have got this. If we talk about percentage, and it was amenable to treatment. They needed 1 or 2 or 3 days hospitalization, and everyone got better.
So this leads to an interesting question from the audience, from your point out. Okay, we have seen a little thrombotic tendencies in very rare but very few cases reported. But is this kind of pediatric vaccination can lead also to some form of multi-system inflammatory syndromes, which has been a post-COVID phenomenon in pediatrics?
Yes.
It's an audience question. It's an audience question.
Yes. If you see multi-system inflammatory syndrome, the problem occurs, whatever understanding so far we have got, is the children, they don't get the symptoms earlier in the infection, but there is some replication of virus going on. And it is either in the gut endothelium, and there are various mechanisms by which it can happen. It can keep happening. And after a certain period of time, when there is enough viral load, then suddenly they start having all these inflammatory symptoms, and there is a cytokine storm. So if we look at the vaccine mediated immunity, so it is not about that the antibodies are creating this. It is the virus and the virus's inflammatory mediation which is being occurred by the viruses, and not because of the immune stimulation. The immune stimulation is being occurred by the live viruses which is there inside the child's system, and mostly it is in the gastrointestinal system. So that is the MISC's basic pathophysiology, the multi-system inflammatory syndromes. Here, what we are talking about, we are stimulating our immune system where the whole virus is not there. Either it's a killed virus or it's a DNA subunit or mRNA, which is
So we have many questions to answer. So we will go a little rapid fire round to both of you. Dr. Suresh, is it safe to send my kids to school? It is my question also to you.
It's absolutely safe, I would say. See, I'm going on record and I'm being recorded, so I'm saying. In fact, if we see the literature where the chances of infectivity is less than 5%, the prevalence at that particular point of time, they say in fact up to 10%, it is pretty safe. But just because as an expert I am saying, it doesn't mean we can just go without the basic precautions. Take absolute basic precautions, whatever is necessary, not just wearing a mask, but wearing it in an appropriate way. Tying a kerchief is not considered as a mask. So wearing an appropriate mask in an appropriate way and handling it in an appropriate manner and removing it in an appropriate manner and following the basic precautions like social distancing. See, I would just say my kids study in HPS. We have seen a video where the management has sent, they have taken, I would say, awesome precautions. They have staggered population getting into the school, and they have vaccinated every possible member at the first opportunity, and they have followed the sanitization precautions. So I would say most schools, I'm sure they would be taking, so it is reasonably safe, but take precautions.
So the transmission at this point of time with the current status looks low, and it is safe with COVID appropriate behavior, which we need to teach to our kids. And also most of the schools are taking adequate precautions. Keep a watch on them and probably follow that. So the second question is the vaccine announced by Covaxin is approved, and how safe it is? I think it is answered. It has been approved by a expert committee. It still need to get approved by DCGI, and the safety has been already proven in adults and also in the pediatrics in the current trial. Why, Dr. Chetan, why do healthy kids need to be immunized? One of the question from some.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, that even though the kids are healthy, if they get infected, there is a chance that they may have post-COVID complication, one, and they will be serving as transmission, as carriers to other members of the family, where you can have elders or other vulnerable members who, even though they are vaccinated, they may still get the disease.
We want our kids to be continue to be healthy. We never wanted them to be unhealthy, and they
exactly
not get respect. What are the contraindications, Dr. Suresh? What do you think will be contraindications for the vaccination? Which kids?
As of now, based on the literature available, only if you are allergic to any specific component of the vaccine, only then that's the only absolute contraindication. Having a simple upper respiratory infection or a simple cough, cold, or fever is not a contraindication. The only absolute contraindications are if they have had any anaphylactic reactions to any vaccines in the past. Especially if you're talking about Zycov-D, it's a DNA vaccine, which is similar to influenza vaccine. Even Covaxin is something similar to influenza vaccine. If any of the kids have had anaphylactic reactions in the past to previous doses of influenza vaccine, be safe, but they should still get vaccinated in a supervised facility.
So there was another question to you, Dr. Suresh. Cross-reactivity with other vaccines. You pointed out the schedules need not need to be disturbed. Do you expect any cross-reactivity?
It has been reported that those who have been vaccinated would have anamnestic reaction. That is, other antibodies to other infections can be triggered to be positive. There was at one point of time a talk that taking flu shot would protect against COVID vaccine, against COVID infection. No, it is not true. There is enough literature to suggest that there is minimal or no cross-reactivity, and it is safe to take two vaccines simultaneously. One is COVID vaccine and the other routine immunization program.
Any information related to Cuba as a country being vaccinating children about 2 years?
Yes, there is enough data to suggest that they have had close to 0% serious adverse events.
So there was which time frame in Covaxin? Maybe another a month or so we are expecting. How many doses? I think Zydus, we spoke about 3 doses. Covaxin, it will remain to be 2. The dose is same, the same 0.5 ml.
Yes.
The 2 doses. The injection is also been the same like IM, which we have.
Yeah, it will be intramuscular only. Only thing is it will be in a pre-filled syringe. That will be the only difference.
So again, DCGI yet to approve Covaxin. So we expect the first dose for the children maybe in a month or 2.
No, I would say that in a couple of weeks, it should be ready to roll out. And intradermal vaccines are well tolerated in children. Even in government programs, we are giving injectable polio vaccine as an intradermal vaccine. So it's going to be minimal or no local reactions is what the company claims.
Is it all right for children with cardiac problem to go and vaccinated? There was another question.
I would say yes, because there was a huge study following a myth that vaccination would alter the mRNA vaccines would cause cardiac issues. This was in adults from US. A large population was studied and they were safe following vaccination. In fact, even in India, most cardiac patients in elderly group were vaccinated with the Covaxin and they were all safe to the best of our knowledge based on the available literature.
So at this point of time, the minimum age is 2 years, I believe. There is no
Yes.
trial at this point of time below 2 years. So we may need more time for that.
Yes.
How do we know if we are allergic to any components of this vaccine?
Like I said, if they have had any anaphylactic reactions, that is serious reactions to the previous influenza vaccine, that's one way to know. And once the vaccine is rolled out, the components are going to be displayed bright and large. So there is very less likelihood that if they have tolerated their routine vaccination in the past, they will have any reactions. Very, very less likely.
So each one of you answer this question: which vaccine is advisable and preferred if both vaccines are available? Dr. Chetan.
It all again, individualizing will be the better thing. If somebody has got comorbidities, if somebody is on any particular immunosuppressant therapy, then Covaxin, being a killed virus vaccine, will be better, because Zydus, we don't know about the comorbidity conditions, but we have very good data of people with comorbidities, people on immunosuppressants being given Covaxin, adult people. So that will be the only, I think, difference. Otherwise, whichever is available, we should go ahead. Some kids who are more than 12 years but still they are afraid of needles, they may get the Zycovax, because there won't be a needle. It will be a jet injector.
Yeah, Dr. Suresh.
I would say based on the literature available, they can go for either. Because what happens is, like I mentioned in my last slide, we are not safe until everyone is safe. If we start waiting for one particular vaccine, there is no end to it. Then somebody might say, why not wait for Pfizer BioNTech? Somebody might say that why not wait for Serum Institute of Vaccine? So there is no end to it. But like Chetan pointed out, Covaxin at this moment of time is well studied, reviewed, and we have seen in our own selves that is adults have been vaccinated. So I would say that I would go for Covaxin, but definitely there is no data available comparing two vaccines.
Yes.
So vaccine that is available.
The situation given was both are available. What will you take? So it all again depends on the slight things. If somebody has got comorbidities, maybe Covaxin. Otherwise, I don't feel any difference is going to be there.
So there are some repeat questions like, can we clarify on needle-less vaccines? Zydus vaccines are needle-free. So again, can you just repeat that concern of interdermal?
So if I can say, Chetan.
Yeah, not a problem.
So it is something like this, an applicator. It is a needle-less applicator. It would just be put on shoulder, just below the shoulder muzzle. Okay, it just goes into the skin, intradermal. So if something needs to go into the skin, you don't really need a needle. So I'm just putting it in a very simple format. So it's an applicator which is pressed onto the skin, and the vaccine particle goes into the skin. So there is literally no needle.
So the Zydus vaccines are not oral vaccines or spray vaccines. It is an intradermal injector-based vaccines without a needle. So again, this raises another question: when will we get the nasal spray or live vaccines coming up, which we all are looking for a proper immunity, for a longer immunity, and all that? Any comments on that?
So, Chetan,
the phase 2, our own Bharat Biotech is in preparation with this nasal vaccine. Why everybody is eager to get it? Because it will give mucosal immunity, where right from the first line where the virus attacks us, there will be a mucosal immunity where it will just have a defense there itself. But it not even phase 2 trial has started yet. So I think looking at the whole timeline, it will be a while. So can't really say exactly when, but it will be a while before we see any nasal spray vaccines.
So all these vaccines which we are talking about now may prevent the severity of the disease, hospitalization, but the transmission remains a risk.
So they won't reduce the transmission.
Mucosal,
they will reduce the transmission for sure, but they won't be able to prevent the infection from happening.
Any internal information related to the cost at this point of time?
Well, for Zydus, I think company has proposed some 2,700 for the whole 3 doses, but government is still bargaining and negotiating the cost. So being Indians, we like bargaining is our birthright. So we'll go ahead and yeah, but not
It's going to be something similar to the Covaxin, what is being given to adults. But I'm sure with so many NGOs coming into picture when it comes to pediatric age group, we might be seeing a slightly lesser cost. But it is going to be a speculation at this point of time. Probably a Diwali gift would be we will know the cost and the rollout of this vaccine.
Any basic precautions before vaccination starts for the kids 2 to 12 years? Dr.
No,
Suresh?
actually, if one of the parent is asking, I'm sure they would have vaccinated their kids with, I would say, at least 12 to 14 vaccines before reaching their preschool. So they don't need to have any specific precautions. They don't need to take any specific precautions before or after. Only thing is, if they develop any local reactions, they need to contact the healthcare provider if they have not been given information about it earlier.
Dr. Chetan, any myalgia reported with either Covaxin or Zydus vaccine in kids?
As I said, yeah, no severe myalgia has been reported. That's not so far. We don't have the full trial data or peer reviewed. So that has not been there, but there is no serious adverse event, no serious severe myalgia reported so far.
I think there are repeated questions related to incidence of any reported multi-system inflammatory phenomenons with post-vaccination kids. I think no reports yet. Only myocarditis has been.
Myocarditis is not. It is a peculiar event after the mRNA vaccine, which is seen with Pfizer's and older people, 18, 19, 20.
Any proposal of government making any new vaccines for children in the future or in coming days?
Like I said, Corbevax and Covovax are already in pipeline. So if Covaxin and Zydus Cadila comes in adequate numbers, but again, like Chetan pointed out earlier, India is a huge, humongous populous country. So we need at least another few more companies to roll out their vaccines for pediatrics. So there are 2 already in pipeline, and Pfizer, if they come into picture, that will also contribute to a significant population between 12 and 18. Zydus, which is already licensed for 12 and 18, they have applied for permissions to use to conduct phase 3 trials in 2 to 18 years. So that will make 5 companies on.
Any maybe information related to how the government is planning to give these vaccines? Is this will be given to schools, or it will be like the previous way of healthcare setups, both the government and public and private? How is there any information related? There were some questions, right? No information yet.
It's still in a speculatory phase, but what is being discussed internally is that it's going to be given to healthcare institutions initially. Subsequently, it can be rolled out on a public gatherings like what it was done with the COVID vaccination. But at this point of time, it's not very clear whether only the government institutions will be organizing the vaccination drive, or it will be simultaneously released to private sector as well. But having said that, government has a massive infrastructure in place, because most of them might not be aware, adult physicians. But for pediatrics, we have massive infrastructure and manpower which gets into place for national immunization schedule, like ASHA workers or Anganwadi workers or PHCs, community health centers. Everything is in place. So if we have enough vaccine doses available, probably it might be given both to private as well as government initially. Subsequently, they might be allowed to conduct vaccination drives in housing societies or something like that.
Yeah, so there were questions related to 3 doses. I think 3 doses are only for the DNA vaccine, that is a Zydus vaccine, and 2 doses for Covaxin, and no transdermal route is available for Covaxin. There were questions related to that. Covaxin remained to be the IM with a needle and the same 0.5 ml, but as Chetan pointed out, it will be a pre-filled syringe with a 0.5 ml, which is different from the earlier available adult vaccines, which was a multi-vial 10 ml, 10 person's vaccine. That's for around 5 ml was available. So the certificates related to the COVID children vaccine, probably the same thing which was followed in adults will be followed in kids. That's what will be the phenomenon. So I think there were many questions, many interests, maybe a close to 200 live audience interacting with us. It was an amazing platform to actually to interact with both of you. So I think it was a learning experience for me, and also a informative session for me. I thank both Dr. Chetan and Dr. Suresh to making this session so interactive and so what you say dynamically placed. And I thank all the participants in participating so actively in this phenomenon. I hope this information will help all of you. I believe both of them have clarified key. We probably need vaccination to our little ones, and the best vaccine is the vaccination which is available, vaccine which is available. Maybe the information at this point of time with comorbidities and safety, we have more information with Covaxin. Probably we will also have the same with Zydus. Zydus is a needle-free intradermal vaccine, which may be needing 3 doses, whereas Covaxin is 2 doses. We may in future will get many more other vaccines which will be rolled out for pediatrics. At this point of time, we all in speculation. And probably both of them were pointing out that in quick time, maybe in few weeks, we will get these vaccines for kids. And at this point of time, with a low transmission, we believe with adequate COVID related precautions, COVID appropriate behavior, we still can send our kids to the school. I do know training them, talking to them related to the wearing a mask, social distancing, hand hygiene is very easy. Then believing them, they will follow it appropriately. They wanted to just jump out of the home and go back to the school and get back to their own activities, which they were eagerly waiting for. We hope that these vaccines may add the protection. And with this, I thank both of you and thank all the audience. Any take-home comments from Dr. Suresh?
I think you have summarized everything. It might not have been possible to answer every question which was posted. So just want to highlight that we at Yashoda, Somajiguda or Secunderabad take adequate precautions, and we have a designated pediatric area for vaccination. And most pediatricians have been improvised over last 18 months for taking adequate precautions. So do not hesitate to get vaccinated. Stay calm, get vaccinated. And everyone is safe. No one is safe until everyone is safe.
Thank you. Dr. Chetan.
Which I always tell all in all my talks is COVID appropriate behavior is a must, whether you have been vaccinated, you are about to get vaccine or not, even afterwards also, because we are very quick in getting complacent. We have seen this. If you remember, November, December last year was a very, very quiet period, and the havoc which we saw in April and May, I don't think we should ever forget that. So it's very important that we carry on with all our precautions with the same vigor, even though the numbers are less in our state and largely in our country. But we have seen people, developed nations also having third waves, and they have also suffered more again. So that we should now take to it that we don't let that happen again in our country.
Yeah, thank you. With this, I conclude the session. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.